Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears and your imaginations. Imagine, if you will, that you're in New York, just getting settled into your seat to watch a Shakespeare in the Park production. This year, they have chosen to perform Julius Caesar, a play set in ancient Rome. Usually, one can expect to see men dressed in togas and sick Roman crowns parading around on stage, spitting out Latin verses like Sic Semper Tyrannis, or Caesar's dying words, Et tu, Brute? But this isn't any ordinary production. Instead, you see a man in a suit with a red tie, coiffed blonde hair, and an orangish complexion. His wife talks with a Slavic accent, and he tweets from his golden bathtub. This is the New York Public Theater's 2017 production of Julius Caesar, in which Caesar is Trump. As you can imagine, a play which depicts the assassination of Trump in Act 3 probably won't be taken well, and sure enough, the play was met with conservative outrage. Multiple performances were even interrupted by protesters, shouting things like, "Stop the normalization of political violence against the right," and even referring to the audience members as Joseph Goebbels. In an interview with director Oscar Eustis, he describes this outrage as a right-wing hate machine. He states, "This is not about my play, or my production of a play. This is really an example of what this kind of demagoguery does." Eustis brings up a really important point here. The swiftness with which conservatives turn to outrage reveals a lack of understanding of the play itself. Ironically, for a group that has long been outspoken in their advocacy for teaching Western literary canon, it seems none of them have actually studied Julius Caesar. If they had, they would realize their anger is misplaced. For starters, Julius Caesar is a war hero, and the play's not really about his killing. Sure, it becomes a pivotal part of the play, but it's about so much more than that. This play has no clear message, and no one can say for sure whether this play depicts assassination as the foulest of crimes or justified in order to stop tyranny. It's a play filled with warnings about authoritarianism and populism, a play which exemplifies the saying, "Violence begets violence." Now, why am I telling you all this? I'm here to argue that this reaction is ahistorical. Theaters have always been a place to voice one's political opinions. Julius Caesar, as with all of Shakespeare's works, has been understood as political since Shakespeare himself wrote them. And Shakespeare's plays are not just inherently political, they are tools of protest. Though people like Trump may like to tweet that the theater must always be a safe and special place, this is simply not true. From the very beginning, theater has had a political purpose, and I do mean the very beginning. Let's go to Athens, the birthplace of Western theater. According to ancient Greek historians, during the height of Athenian democracy, plays were consistently critical of the social and political status quo, and further, playwrights were supposed to educate the citizenry by serving as a social and political critic. One must also remember that attendance was mandatory. The Routledge Companion to Theater and Politics notes the many ways theater has been protest. They describe theater as performative protest, whistleblowing, cultural activism, reaction to political crisis, provocative intervention, utilizing revolutionary rhetoric, and resistance. Shakespeare is no different. The political undertones of his plays were no secret. In fact, after watching Richard II, a play about the deposition of a king, Queen Elizabeth reportedly remarked to her attendants, "I am Richard II. Know ye not that?" Julius Caesar in particular has received a lot of attention over the years. In 1770, the play was an allegory for the rule of King George III over America, showcasing the necessity of Caesar's death. In 1865, John Wilkes Booth apparently is said to have shouted "Sic Semper Tyrannis," thus away with tyrants, after killing Abraham Lincoln. In 1937, this play takes on a different meaning, being staged to look like fascist Italy and Nazi Germany, with a Mussolini like Julius Caesar at its head. Even more recently, in 2012, there was a production of Julius Caesar which had an Obama-like Caesar, who was assassinated by right-wing extremists. Interestingly, this production did not receive nearly as much attention as the 2017 Trump Caesar did. It is important to note that Julius Caesar is not the only play tackling current issues. Plays like Othello, Taming of the Shrew, The Merchant of Venice, and Measure for Measure are all being produced to talk about huge issues like racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, and the current Me Too movement. Now, how are these plays tools of protest? According to the Oxford Dictionary, a protest is a statement or action expressing disapproval of or objection to something. Most people think of protesters marching in the streets with signs reading, "Down with Big Brother," or perhaps more topically, "Black Lives Matter." And it is, but it's also more than that. When, in the wake of the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, a Measure for Measure production takes place in a courtroom and gives Angelo the title Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Angelo being a character infamous for a scene in which he tries to accuse the title female character, and upon her threatening to tell, he responds with, "Who will believe thee?" This is a clear objection to the politics in the Supreme Court. When a 1970 British production of The Tempest casts the enslaved Caliban and Ariel as black men, it is no accident. They are saying something about England's history of colonization. This is protest. And when a 2017 production of Julius Caesar casts a red tie-wearing, blonde hair, orange face, ego-driven Caesar, they are saying something about the political climate of the day. It's clear that Shakespeare's plays are not passive pieces of art, and many speak to the present just as well as they spoke to the past. They are universal enough that they can speak to all, and ambiguous enough that new meaning can be imparted on them. As long as we have problems in society that need to be protested, we will have Shakespeare. And more specifically, as long as we have stupid politicians, we will have Julius Caesar. As Ben Jonson once said, Shakespeare is not of an age, but for all time. To sum up this entire video, Shakespeare's plays are protest. They always have been, and they always will be. I'm not actually going to write out the citations because that would take forever, but here's a video of me trying to get my cat to look at the camera. His name is Tony, by the way, just in case you're wondering.